Hello, this is Hero Headcannon. This will be primarily a podcast-like show. Think Comics Explained, but not actually talking about specific issues in comics. If you watch the RNBE on Comic Historian, you might hear them say things like theorycraft, and that's what this show will basically be. So you can enjoy listening to my shrill, annoying voice while doing other, more productive things. Perhaps write a good comic book, perhaps work on cancer cures, or doing the world a favor and working on ways to legally kill people with shrill, annoying voices that seem to live off puns. Yes, there will be puns in this video, I'm sure. Today we'll be talking about the 80-year-old himself, Mr. Action Comics issue 1000, Superman. Let's start with origins, because of course we should start with origins. This is a video to examine the headcanon of superheroes. Of course, we'll have to talk origins. And really, for Superman, the home planet of Krypton is, for the most part, inconsequential. Yes, it's where his DNA originated, but really for Clark himself, the way Krypton was is unimportant. It's really unless you're like me and want at least some of the Superman family, cough, Supergirl and Krypto, cough, that you need to explore more of the planet itself. I mean, we've seen versions of Krypton that have had dogs and horses. Because, I'll be honest with you, Krypton is an alien planet. We as an audience have become more accustomed to seeing weird creatures on alien worlds than really seeing a planet very similar to ours in fiction is more interesting. How did dogs evolve on this planet? Are the horses really like our horses? Or do they actually feast on blood at night while secretly wishing to become humans in order to mount those that have ridden them? No, all that really matters about Krypton, at least in terms for Kal-El, is that 1, it was Superman's birth planet. 2, it was a dying planet in a solar system with a red sun. 3, there was a war criminal named General Zod who was hell-bent on taking over, but he and his followers were sent away to the Phantom Zone. Now, with such a simple background on Krypton, it allows for more expansion later, like perhaps one of the things that made Krypton a dying planet was because it was in war with another planet. If you're a fan of Earth 1 like me, perhaps an AI went rogue and shrunk a city to preserve the planet's culture, then abandoned the planet. And these would be great stories to explore, but they don't really shape our hero, and they certainly don't shape how we view him. So, let's fast forward just a smidge. The loving birth parents of Kal-El, and no, births are a normal part of Krypton, so we can stop making his birth a freaking miracle to force yet another Jesus comparison. Realizing that their planet is doomed, build a ship to send their family away from the destruction, and realizing that ships that could house the whole House of El would be tracked and destroyed by enemies of Krypton, they decided to start by sending the youngest first in smaller ships, thinking they would in fact actually have time to send the whole family. First, rocketing Kal-El away, wrapped in his big red baby blanket. Jor-El in fear sending his infant son away without a parent to protect him because all the ships were made. Basically, Jor-El was the prepper of Krypton. And all he had to do was activate each small ship and send everyone to the new planet. But of course, this is comics, and life in comics seems even more eager to kick you when you're down than real life at most times. Of course, the end of the world gets into full swing as Jor-El sends his only son away. With only moments to spare, he begins to rush, sending away his niece, Kara Zor-El, and her dog, Crypto. Yes, Crypto, in my headcanon, is actually her dog, but that'll be explored in her hero headcanon if we get there. Unfortunately, right as she was rocketing away, Krypton exploded. The remaining members of the House of El sadly did not survive, and except for a city that was captured by the rogue AI, Brainiac, neither did any other law-abiding Kryptonians. And unfortunately, it also appeared that Kara's ship was destroyed in the explosion, leaving only chunks of radioactive Krypton known only as kryptonite. But this is only the beginning of our tale. We now cut to Smallville, Kansas, where a kindly late 30s, early 40s couple is driving back from a doctor's appointment. The wife, Martha. Why did you say that name? I'm sorry, Batman. Has in fact learned what she always feared. She will never be able to have children. As if things couldn't get any worse, crashing down before them was an alien craft. Jor-El was many things, but an intergalactic GPS programmer wasn't one of them. See, he was planning on the ships all landing safely in the Antarctic, an area where the Kryptonians, all enhanced by the yellow sun of Earth's solar system, would be able to live in comfort and ease without being discovered by the local species called humans. As the kindly couple, known as Cats, race over to the craft, unsure if it was an airplane crashing or what it was, they just knew it was their duty as good human beings to investigate if anyone was alive or not. And in return for them being decent folk, they got a literal gift from the heavens. A child. Something they wanted for some time now. So the husband, Jonathan, calls up their closest neighbors, the Langs, to help move the small but incredibly heavy craft away from the crash site. So at this point, the only ones that know about the Kent's alien baby are the Kents and the Langs. And this is where I liked Man of Steel, but also hated it. See, they got the lore backwards. Jor-El was the father that wanted his son, Kal-El, to keep his existence secret, whereas Jonathan Kent wanted his son, Clark, to do everything in his power to help people, like he does. So, when his powers started to develop, of course young Clark Kent's bus experienced an accident and crashes over a bridge. So Clark saves the day, and since please stand by. Anyway, as I was saying, since word travels fast in a small town, by the next morning, everyone in Smallville knew that Clark was in fact a Superboy. Yes, the pun was intentional. No, I'm not going to apologize either. But like most small towns, they take care of their own, even if one of their own comes from out of town. So, where the boy of Steel never gets out of the town. But eventually, a boy becomes a man, and Clark decides to see the world. Before leaving, he pats the small crashed ship, and recognizing the DNA of a more mature Kryptonian, the ship reignited and launched with a course correct, leading it straight to the Antarctic. So Clark turns to the loving parents that raised him and says, "That ship is the only clue to where I came from, and I'm going to see what secrets it has for me in the Arctic. But I'm going to see what all I can learn about the place I was raised, and the place that I live first." He hugs them goodbye and soars off, learning different life teachings and philosophies, and some ways to kick booty, but mostly medical practices. He wanted to be able to help as many people as he could in an emergency. Eventually, along the way, he studies a bit under the League of Shadows, because, let's be honest, while League of Assassins sounds cool, it's a bit on the nose. Mostly he was there for educational teachings, but the League did train him in a few martial arts. Yes, I believe Raz, Raish, however you want to say it, doesn't only train people how to kill. He wants a new, better world. People need to know how to do medical practices. And even if you're next to immortal, you still can't be everywhere. This is where Clark first meets Bruce Wayne. Dun dun dun. While Bruce was on a quest to learn how to break skulls, Clark was on a mission to fix skulls. And their paths cross quite a few times, actually, but they don't really interact. They might. Basically, theirs is the equivalent of walking down the hallway, seeing somebody, and going, "What's up?" Of course, Clark leaves to explore more until he finds the ship that had rocketed away before the start of his quest. But it had gotten bigger. Remember, when the ship left with then baby Kal-El, it was only slightly bigger than baby Cal. And now Clark is discovering something the size of a small apartment complex. Seems like Jor-El had a couple more tricks up his sleeve. Seriously, if you're a Kryptonian, be a prepper. You'll be way more prepared than any Earthling ever will. Any Earthling. So throwing caution to the wind, I mean, why wouldn't he? He's Superman. Clark goes in. Inside, he finds an expansive area with a section weaving fabric and a large crystalline structure chilling out in the middle. Clark walks up to the crystalline structure and runs his hand over it. Suddenly, something pricks his finger, a feat that shocks the young adult because nothing has been able to get blood from him, let alone scratch him. Then the face of a man appears over the crystalline structure. "My son," the voice begins. "Why are you here? So much older." See, Jor-El made sure that once the ship brought Kal-El here, landed safely, it would become the educational area of this small Kryptonian cul-de-sac. That is why there was fabric for arts and crafts, presumably to teach Kal-El, even going so far as to make an AI version of himself to educate. Kryptonians, if this somehow reaches you before your planet goes boom, seriously, become preppers. Just be willing to share with the species you decide to share a planet with. Everything. Just share everything. Please, Kryptonian preppers. You guys are going to be awesome. Eventually, as Clark reveals what happened to him and his ship, the AI Jor-El loses his mind. He says how the Kryptonians were never supposed to interact with the primitive Earthlings, let alone be raised by some. Nor were they to show off the impressive powers that they gained from this solar system's yellow sun. Clark was like, "Nuh-uh, Space Dad. The man who raised me here taught me that we should do everything we can to help each other. And with these powers of mine, I could help a lot of people." To which the holographic Jor-El was all like, "If you must save these humans, fine. But you can't do too much. things like cure drought and famine, anything that would utterly disrupt the natural ecosystem of this planet, and I will see to it that you never play God again. This moment, just to prove that the AI wasn't bluffing, a green cylinder emerges. And quickly, Clark begins to feel ill. Apparently, knowing that the planet was eventually going to explode, Jor-El went ahead and ran some experiments to see what all different forms of kryptonite, yes, you should say kryptonite, as stylish as the now infamous Kevin Spacey did in Superman Returns, the planet may take on when exposed to all the various radiations that would occur with the planet's destruction. Kryptonian preppers, man. Kryptonian preppers. Clark took a heavy sigh. It was like, fine, I won't interfere on a massive scale. But these are great people, Father, if they wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. I can be that light. Again, Hollow Jor-El says, fine, you can help people. But you can't help to those extreme cases. If humanity is as good as you say they are, then they need to learn how to deal with these problems on their own. You are free to handle smaller scale problems. And of course you have the right to defend this planet that has become your home. But they must not become dependent upon you. Do not throw your life away for them. Make time for yourself. Take some of this fabric here. It was made from material from Krypton, so on this planet, it will be as nearly indestructible as you. Take the fabric and make you some sort of disguise. Something you wear while helping the people of this world. But please, my son, don't waste your life for these people. Find yourself peace. I'm sorry that I was not actually there to raise you proper. Clark then grabs clothing, soars back to his parents' farm, recounting the tale of what all he had learned during his travels and inside the alien ship. He said that he had agreed with what the holographic Jor-El had to say about making a costume, and wonder if good old Ma might be able to help. It took several hours and several earth needles before Clyke. Please stand by. As I was saying, it took several hours and several earth needles before Clark finally rushed off to find a Kryptonian needle back at the place he got the fabric from. But eventually, an outfit was made. One based on the outfit that circus strongmen wore to show off their incredible feats, even including Kal-El's baby blanket to act as a cape, since some strongmen would come out wearing a cape before removing it when they did their big performances. She figured that him taking off the cape would act as a sign to her that Clark really thought that he was in trouble, and that whatever he was up against might actually be a real test of his incredible gifts. But now Clark needed an outlet to let his new costume persona be introduced to the world. Smallville wouldn't work because everyone would know it was him, and the crime rate isn't anything to really worry about. Of course, he knew he would help with problems all over the world, but he needed a hometown. Gotham already had a vigilante, plus with the fact that most of its police force was corrupt, trying to tackle a crime rate that was high while also possibly facing persecution for being an alien seemed like too much even for one Superman. Then he saw it, lying there on the coffee table. The Daily Planet newspaper from that big city metropolis. Crime rate might not be as massive as Gotham, but they had their fair share. And with as close as it was to Ma and Pa, if they needed him, he could be there and back before any could notice, maybe even during a bank robbery. But what kind of a job would he have while living in Metropolis? Superheroics doesn't sound like much of a bill payer, especially when Jor-El said Clark wasn't allowed to do it 24/7. So, what to do? He could literally have any job he wanted. Scientist? He was smart enough, but would probably get bored. Sports hero? Sure, he was fat, strong, and fast enough, but wouldn't really be fair to all the other athletes that had trained themselves for so long. And he remembered his high school days writing for the local paper. So with everything in mind, he set out for the big city. And of course, in no short time, the opportunity came for Clark to debut in his new costume identity. The ace reporter for the Planet, Lois Lane, had been tracking a string of robberies for months. And there, herself, along with photojournalist Jimmy Olsen, when the robbers came to steal the goods. Cops on the way, because Lane did tip them off. The robbers decide to take the damn Pulitzer winner hostage. They begin to escape in their helicopter, but in their haste, they don't properly take off and begin to crash. But something catches them. And being at the right place at the right time, Olsen takes a picture of the man clad in the bright costume. And with his bold family crest that looks strangely like an S, because when your alphabet features the number 8 as the letter G, of course an S could be a coat of arms that represents hope. With all those factors, once Miss Lane writes her article and needs to come up with a name for the mysterious stranger, she thinks of that S stretched boldly across the man's strong chest and dubs him Superman. So, that's the origin of Clark Kent, or as the world would one day know him, Superman. But what else do we need to know about him? Love interests, I guess? There have been several women pining for the guy with Southern hospitality, but it seems like there seem to be only 3 major frontrunners: Lana Lang, Lois Lane, and Wonder Woman. And for me personally, I'm a sucker for Lana. I don't know, maybe it's the whole first love thing, maybe because the chemistry between the two of them was my second favorite part of Superman 3, or because she's usually depicted as a redhead. And since I try to live vicariously through the fictional characters I read about, of course I would want Superman to end up with a redhead. Wait, did I say that out loud? Then there's Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman's character. She is the embodiment of grace and strength. And I could see how a guy like Clark would at least feel some attraction. But honestly, I haven't really seen a great story about these two. Nothing outside of Justice League versus Teen Titans. And really, I feel it also cheapens the humanity of these characters. It adds to the argument that DC characters are treated as, / view themselves as gods. Only the gods can date each other. They are incapable of loving a mortal. That really doesn't fit with my view of Clark. It aligns itself with more of the Kill Bill and Frank Miller view of the Man of Steel. While Lois isn't my go-to choice for Clark's heart, it will always be the standard and the one that makes the most sense. And thanks to shows like Lois and Clark, a show that actually helped me fall more in love with Superman and to stop seeing him as this godlike figure and more of a man with the two characters that have existed together since Action Comic #1 so many years ago, now also having a child together, I don't see any woman stealing Lois's man anytime soon. Maybe Maxima might actually steal him, like literally kidnap him and take him somewhere else kind of steal. But to be fair, that's just Maxima. She's awesome in her own right. And lastly, I want to talk about that part that Zack Snyder just never totally understood. The dude's personality. I believe of the DC3. Yeah, I don't know why, but I always feel weird about referring to anything other than the religious Holy Trinity as a / the Trinity. Plus, DC3 sounds better to me anyway. I believe of the DC3, Clark is the most human character-wise. Diana is supposed to be the middle ground between the human Batman and the alien Superman. And power-wise, she is exactly that. Personality-wise, she is still the middle ground between the human Clark and the vigilante Batman. I'll explain more about what I mean if I do Bruce's headcanon, but for now, just accept the fact that Batman's personality is a bit strong. Clark is the optimist of the DC3, and if he isn't the biggest optimist of the entire Justice League, then his only competition is the Flash and Shazam. Clark fundamentally sees himself as a person first. A problem for him is strangely a human problem. Will I make the date with Lois if I stop this bank heist? Is Ma and Pa okay? How's the farm doing? He views himself as a man first and a superhero second. Whether you run into Clark Kent or Superman, you will find a guy that is willing to give the shirt off his back to help. And thanks to his upbringing, he understands that people should do everything in their power to help each other out. The strong should protect the weak. Which is a complete and weird parallel to the original Superman that Siegel and Schuster created for in Reign of the Superman. That was basically an evil Professor X. And unlike Spidey in the Man of Steel version, it didn't take a tragic loss for him to understand that lesson. It was just a thing that he had to do. He has the powers to help, so he should help. Yes, he can have a bit of a fuddy-duddy attitude at times, but he's still an earnest, kind soul, and will smile, make a joke, and have feelings. He treats everyone like an equal. Hell, you could even watch a baseball game and have a beer with the guy. But even with all that, sometimes he knows things need to be bent in order to do the most good. Like in Superman the movie, he flies back in time to save Lois and still fix everything. Now, what does Superman mean to us? Well, me personally, he's exactly what he set out to be. An inspiration. With Clark's optimism, he has earned the title, the Man of Tomorrow. But he always tries to make things better and help where he is needed. Now, it may sound naive, a perhaps negative trait that could be given to a character everyone thinks is perfect. But even if you're the biggest jerk you think there is always some core within us that wants to be that optimistic, that wants to improve the world. And like Clark, I believe that core exists within us all, to every policeman, firefighter, paramedic, and activist that tries to improve this planet. It's an idealistic attitude we all have within us. We just need the power to do so, because we've all gotten the inspiration. No matter who your favorite superhero is, be it the Flash, Batman, Spider-Man, or hell, even Squirrel Girl. We all owe their existence to the costumed Kryptonian crime fighter, spawned from the skulls of Siegel and Schuster. Now, for reading recommendations on Superman, I say start with All-Star Superman and Superman Earth 1. If you like watching your superheroes, All-Star Superman is adapted by the DC animated movies, the gold standard in animated superhero goodness. But speaking of animation, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Superman the Animated Series and Justice League. Seriously, for the best iteration of the majority of DC's characters, check those out. Of course, there is the original Superman movies. I recommend the first 3 of those. Yes, even number 3, while it may be balls to the walls insane, it does prove my point that Clark is a man first and a superhero second. Plus, again, the stuff with Lana is just diabetes-inducing sweet. And again, the show Lois and Clark, it further drives home the point that Superman is a man first and a super second. But now I want to know what you guys think. What are some of your thoughts? What is your headcanon for Superman? Let me know in the comments down below, and if I get enough before I decide to do another video, maybe I'll make a video discussing the comments. As for the next video, maybe I would say what I would actually do if I got to write Superman. For Hero Headcanon, this is Josh Redburn. See you later.